Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com. And it is time once again to look into that wonderful world of crowdfunded comics. And tonight, returning to the show, we have Adam Lawson and his book, The Kill Journal. Adam, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I am fabulous. I'm fabulous. Thank you for having me back on. It's funny the layout that you have of the characters there at the bottom of the screen.
Somebody got a dirty mind.
Yeah, it's so funny because just the way that got laid out, and then I started getting posted around with the tire iron right there over his crotch. I gotta get that.
There's depth and perspective, people. Come on, it's not right on there. That's just how big that guy is.
Yeah, and it's he's referencing. He's saying, "Listen, tire iron size."
There you go. Oh
yeah.
So, if anybody wants to follow Adam on Twitter, your handle is failed superhero. Now.
Yeah.
Does that mean you actually put on a costume at one time and decided, no, this doesn't work, or how'd that come about?
You know, what happened when I was a teenager, a young teenager, 12, 13, I had this dream, I had this vision that I would, wake up one day with mutant powers. And, even at church, when we were saying prayers, I would silently always say one for that. I mean, at that level, I was like, maybe I'll be the one that it comes through for. But after 3 or 4 years of that, no payoff, I decided, the only thing left for me as a career option then is to work in film and TV, where you can make stories about superheroes. And truth be told, is most people in TV and film are failed superhero fans, right? They did realize they couldn't become one, so they had to make TV shows about them.
Yeah, it was a viable job opportunity when I was 12, 13 years old. I even went so far to design the costume and come up with a name and everything.
Totally. And you're just like, man, where's adamantium when I need it, right? That should be available
exactly
at the local CVS. And you could just go down, pick up some adamantium, and you're ready to rock.
I was going to go the Bruce Wayne route, except, I lived in a trailer, so I didn't have that billionaire background. And, my parents weren't going to die anytime soon, so I couldn't be the orphan and have, all that time to myself.
Yeah.
But I'd get the local junior college catalog would always come in. I was like, criminology, psychology. I need to take all these classes. I was preparing.
That's amazing. There's about a good solid 6 months of my life that every night I went to sleep, I slept in my shoes and left the window open in my bedroom on the in case that ninjas came by and abducted me and took me to a training center in Japan where then I would become one. That was another dream that just never really came to pass. So reality started to creep in very, very carefully on me. And, so hence that's why the Failed Superheroes Club, when starting this publishing company several months ago, it seemed like the obvious title, right? That it was the
absolutely. Club. Well, what would be a good title to fall under the banner of Failed Superheroes?
What's that?
I'm Not Starfire. This is the graphic novel from DC, another one of their young adult entries.
I'm not sure I understand what this is. It's like is this a novel or a comic book?
This is a graphic novel marketed to the YA audiences. And it's just DC not having a clue again. You've seen some of the DC young adult graphic novels that are out there, like Bruce Wayne in high school with the Joker and Catwoman and all that stuff. This is Mariko Tamaki. It's illustrated by Yoshi Yoshitani. And what you're looking at here on the cover, that's Starfire, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
This is Mandy. This is Starfire's daughter. And this is who the book
Got
is.
It. It's odd because she didn't look anything like her mother, and her mother has some really distinct features.
But she looked exactly like Mariko Tamaki.
Oh, is that it? I see. So it's kind of like a semi-autobiographical
This is a insert of the worst kind. I'm just going to read the promo on this because it's horrifying. I can't see that they sell more than 10 copies of this. This is for superhero fans, I guess. 17-year-old Mandy Coriander is not her mother. That's obvious right away. Daughter of Starfire. Now, this is bad writing. Daughter of Starfire and high school outcast. High school outcast is not the name of the father. The father is simply not named. It should be daughter of Starfire and a high school outcast. Mandy is constantly trying to get out from under the shadow of her bright, bubbly, scantily clad, and famous mother. Dyeing her bright orange hair black and sticking close to her best friend Lincoln, Mandy spends her days at school avoiding Teen Titans superfans and trying to hide her feelings for the gorgeous, popular, and perfect Claire. Now, notice Mandy is anything but gorgeous and perfect. She's short, dumpy, and angry looking.
And it seems like she's having a bad day. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably a book I'll pass on. You know, I'm glad you brought it up. I'll consider it for my shopping list this year for Christmas. But I wouldn't hold your breath on that purchase. But I appreciate it.
Yeah, this will be in bookstores. But here's the problem in the book. This is the crux of it all. And while Mandy usually avoids spending too much time with her alien mother, she's been particularly quiet as she's keeping one major secret from her. Mandy walked out of her SAT.
I don't think I understand. Like, she just finding out and learning to be unafraid of failing. She just left her test in the middle. That was her crisis. That she was the one kid of thousands who just didn't just start filling in C and say, you know what, I gotta just have to go with that.
And you know what'll happen? It'll be revealed that she walked out of it because it was boring. She's going to be super genius and probably would have aced the whole thing.
Right.
Because that's what Mary Sues do. But let's talk about a good comic book.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
The Kill Journal here. Now, you've got a video on this, so I'm going to move the branding out of the way here just for a moment so that we can give this thing a full screen and a good play. Let's take a look at this now.
My name is Sydney Valentine. I'm a survivor. Remnants slaughtered everyone I love, including my daughter. They're evil spirits, back from the dead who wield machetes and tire irons, and a bullet to the head won't stop them. After one butchered his congregation, St. George claims God called him to hunt the revenants, and he's recruiting survivors to join him. Most won't make it out alive, but at least they're taking a stand. God has his book of life, and St. George has his kill journal.
That is just read extremely well. I don't know who you got to voice that. That was awesome.
That's Savannah Southern Smith is the actress's name. She did a couple seasons of the TV show I write direct called Escape the Night. And she also is like in my gaming group as well, where her and I are pretty good pals. And so she did that for me as a good friendly favor. And it was, it needed some gravitas, right, in that voiceover. I always think that there's such a performance need in it. So I always try to get a real actor, unlike myself, to deliver, some nuance to it.
Yeah, I'm not a voice actor kind of person. I've tried to do some online readings and throw the voices into it, and I've got 3 of them, and apparently that's it.
Yeah, but I think that shows, what this tale is, right? Testifies to you as saying, why am I here? And it's, talk about horror comics. And I think that's, what I love. I love horror movies, and I also love horror comic books. And they're kind of a rare commodity in the relative scope of things, right? And and this I wanted to make, the horror comic book that is the tale that happens after, the horror movie ends, and there's a handful of survivors left, and they're covered in mud and blood, and their friends are all dead, and the credits are about to roll, and it's like, now what do I do with my life? And that's where this story picks up, is essentially these people who have suffered extreme trauma and that are now facing all of the complications and problems that come with extreme trauma in your life. And they are finding themselves on the doorsteps of St. George's Church. And this half-mad preacher says he's got a cure. It's called revenge. And he recruits the most, I'd say, crazy or the most willing, the ones who are willing to stand up from these survivor support groups that he runs. And he makes his little army of the Survivors Club, and they're going to hunt down these revenants, right? So revenants are vengeful spirits back from the dead, and sometimes they can be seen as somebody like Jason Voorhees or The Crow or Clint Eastwood from High Plains Drifter. But what makes them so frightening is because they're a spiritual problem, right? They can't be made flesh. They can't be killed by a gun or running them over with a car, right? You actually have to fix the spiritual problem. In the Voorhees example, you got to take them back to Camp Crystal Lake. And so our survivors, they're training, they're prepping, but each revenant has their own unique story, their own unique myth, and they've got to discover what it is and then build a custom trap to give them a final death, which often means that they are nearly getting killed every step of the way because their enemy can't be defeated. It can be delayed. Maybe you run them over with a car, you throw them off a cliff, they're delayed for a minute, but they keep coming. And so they're always just on the edge of survival as they're trying to do this gumshoe work to figure out the myth surrounding this revenant. So it's cool because you get characters who are, they have this deep conscience and troubling guilt and demons on the inside, then trying to hunt down these revenants while they're at every step nearly getting killed. And the revenants themselves are a little bit sympathetic, Archie, because they're like, in the instance of one of our characters, revenants, his name is Mr. Crispy, right? He's a war veteran who's back. He's troubled. Ends up homeless. And so people fill his pockets with fireworks. They light him on fire. It lights him on fire, and he dies in the burn unit, right? And now he's back for revenge. And now he's doing far more damage than was done to him, right? He's killed now gobs of people. But there's a hint of the fact that he was a victim at one point, right? And so these revenants have a little bit more texture to them than just there's just a bad guy and that's just bad to the core. There's a little texture because when uncovering their myth, you oftentimes reveal that there was a moment when they tried, when they were humane, and then it got taken from them.
And you try to take them back to that moment, I would guess, so that they remember who they are, and that makes them vulnerable.
Right. It's like, exactly, that's a portion of it. It's bringing back that moment. If it was, maybe there was somebody who insulted them and troubled them as a child, it's bringing that person back and continuing those insults or taking them back to the place where you can weaken them and finish them.
So what's the world like that your characters are populating? And as far as the ratio goes, is it like, 90% human, 10% revenant, so there's still Walmarts and, malls and stuff? Or is it more post-apocalyptic, 90% revenants, 10% humans fighting it all back?
No, it's what you consider as the modern world with a dark slant on it. And the revenants, essentially, their attacks are being covered up in the news. And imagine these are about as common as serial killers or something to that effect, where they're not scourging across every town like a wave. They're popping up in random places across the country. And St. George keeps his kill journal, hence the name, where he records all these revenants and their sightings and what could be their cure, right, or the thing to kill them. And hence why the book is a leather-bound edition that looks like an old Catholic Bible, because that's what he keeps his notes in. There's Brian Kreisgau. There's the man. Yeah. So Brian even, in fact, wrote, so in the Kill Journal, there's an 88-page principal storyline, but then there's 4 6-page mini stories. And that character I was just talking about, Mr. Crispy, that's a Brian Kreisgau creation. And what had happened is in our stretch goals, I wanted to dive into the origin story of each of our survivors without bogging down the central 88-page through line, right?
Sure.
And so for the stretch goals, it's unlocking the little 6-page story that covers the night they were attacked, right? Or the night where something horrifying happened to them that essentially converted them into a survivor of revenants. And so, and Brian wrote one of those stories he wrote about Finch. He's a kid who grew up on the Mexican border, and he ended up getting tossed into a dog fighting ring because his dad runs the pits when a dog didn't show one day. And then he grew up fighting dogs in the pit, getting trained like he was one of the animals. And then Mr. Crispy came by and burned everyone in the arena, including his dad, who was the reason for Mr. Crispy. And now Finch is off hunting revenants. But he's somebody that comes from such a harrowing past, he could maybe become one.
So as far as becoming a revenant goes, is this a law of the universe that causes this to happen? Or is there a Dr. Claw behind it all that says, there's a candidate, make him a revenant?
There's the great secret, right? And that's what they start to uncover in this first volume of the Kill Journal, right, RJ, is that they're dealing with this idea that, these are one-offs at the beginning, right?
Sure.
And then midway through, they start to realize, why is it that this person comes back and this person doesn't? And what's the circumstances? And is there a greater evil? Is there a mastermind, right? Or is it truly just circumstantial? And they start to realize by the end of it that there is something linking them together, or so they think. So without spoiling the entirety of the series, but yeah, the thought you have right there is what they start to toy with.
All right. So is this one and done, or I wouldn't expect it to be a cliffhanger ending for a book of this size and hardcover, but is this all there is to the Kill Journal story, or are there other stories that will be coming down the pike?
No, there's definitely more to this world, but This is a complete tale. You can get this, have this experience, and if that's your only thing, you got it, you experience it, and you're not left going, oh man, what happens next, right? Now, there are seeds in this that when it ends, boy, you'd like to uncover what more could be, and more to the story, because the hunt for revenants is like the hunt for vampires, the hunt for werewolves. It's endless, right? And so there's plenty more to explore, but you can get a full, complete experience with this one.
Excellent. Now, you got a handful of perks here. I almost said several. There's not several, but there's some good ones here. Your featured perk, I call this the cosplay perk, the Kill Journal cosplay perk, because you can have two people here going to a con, and one of them can wear that Revenant mask, and the other one can carry the Kill Journal, because it is a leather-bound volume made to look like St. George's Kill Journal.
Dude, you said it. You said it right, RJ. That's exactly it. That it's both in one, right? And the mask is the real deal. It's what I would use on set. It's a movie quality experience. It's this fiberglass resin. It's got pads on the inside, an elastic strap on the back, and it's got little air holes in those black slits right there. There's actually some.
Are those eye holes, are they blacked out with fabric, or are they?
Nope. They're all the way through. I just blacked them out in Photoshop to make it feel more ominous for this. But yeah, it's actually all the way through. You can see through it clearly.
Okay. I would probably tape like some thin black cloth on it if I was wearing it, just so nobody could see my eyes, but I could still see through it. It's not like nylon or something.
Sure. You could even take it there. It's pretty imposing when you get that mask on, and you start walking around your house and you start feeling like a revenant yourself.
Answer the door for pizza.
Yeah, right?
The mask probably wouldn't scare anybody, but if you open the door when you've got the cleaver in your other hand as well.
That would do the trick. In the modern world, everybody's so mask driven. But it really is frightening to have that thing. It's pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, that's the one silver lining in COVID, is that we can all wear masks now. Nobody cares.
I know, right? It's the best. And I designed. I was pushing for this mask. For a long time, I wanted a mask, and then it couldn't have been a more perfect horizon with it.
So this is the $150 tier. There's only 50 of these available, because you got to limit your mask production. That's expensive, making a mask like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's basically $100 of the tier right there, is the mask.
Yeah. It's just because it's the molding, and you're doing a short batch of them, a small batch of them. They are pricey items, and they're all custom painted. It's not like comes out of the mold that way.
Yeah,
it comes out of the mold, and then it's all custom paint. So. A lot of labor.
So you get the mask in the book, but you also get the monthly digital issues where you'll get mailed a PDF once a month, like you were getting a 22-page floppy subscription. You'll get all the digital stretch goals. and you'll get the print stretch goals. So basically, whatever stretch goals we hit, they're going to be thrown on this as well. But the mask is the cool thing. That's what. Only going to be 50 of them. I hope I run into somebody wearing one at a convention sometime, so I will know where they got it. And then, of course, speaking of the monthly digital issues, you can get just that. This is great. I did not like PDF copies, Adam, because I always like physical copies.
Yeah.
But I'm learning that people overseas and people who are working in remote areas, we have a good friend of the chat, Robert Roberts, pops in. He's working in the subarctic tundra. He can't keep a white box of comics anywhere, but he's got his phone, he's got his pad, and he can read, PDF comics. So he's been buying these. So these are, I've changed my mind on these. These are now a great option. People should look at this if they are in, a situation where they can't afford the shipping and stuff.
No, that's what I agree. It's a great way to get it around the world. And what's fun about it also too is you get it immediately after the campaign ends. So you get to connect to the story right away. I think that I often felt that with, I've backed over 100 books myself. Is that there's so much time in between the end of the backing and when you get it, it's sometimes hard to maintain the momentum. You've kind of lost touch with what you loved about it or were excited about it. And this way it keeps, because the digital go to people who both back the hardcover and the monthly issues. So people are getting a taste of it. Now, lots of times the people who back the hardcover I do this on the 8th, aren't reading the digital. But lots of them may even just step in and just glance through a few pages or read a page here or there. And it still is a nice thing because it still just connects them to it in a more profound way than just an update email, right?
Absolutely.
And so that's what I've come to find with it. I think they've been really successful.
Yeah, and yeah, I'd love to get things fast after I funded them. I've funded some things. It's been a year and a half, and I'm still waiting for them.
I agree with you, right? There's some books that I have backed. I guess it's been, back in like March or earlier that were done campaigns that were in demand, and I backed them in March, and I still have yet to see them. And so you're like, oh, dude, it's an in demand. It means they've had some time to work on that thing. But it was cool but those some and I realize it's tough, and especially for a lot of folks who might maybe start, who financially are in a place where they have to wait until the campaign is done. They get their money from Indiegogo, and then they can actually start their art. That's hard. And then they've hired an artist who is also working another day job. I think a lot of people fall into that boat, right? Where they can maybe pony up for a few pages up front, take the ride, and then they have a part-time artist working, and in comic book art, it's not fast, right? Like you can't do 3 pages a day. It's not how it works. And so, and I can see that. And I understand that position too. I think for myself, I went a little crazier and said, I'm just going to pay for everything up front, and, build a budget and go for it and hope to raise that amount of money. And then also I'm protected but it gets it to backers sooner. And that's my hope anyways.
Well, you are funded. So one would hope that you have reached that level that it takes to.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I've reached the level that it takes, because there's always 2 phases. Because usually you're funding, at least for myself, you kind of balance out what's the minimum to get it in people's hands. That doesn't include you making any money, right? Or that's okay. And for myself, because I letter and do the layout and formatting for delivery for the press as well. And so, and then it's you got to pay your colorist and your artist, and then based on you're going to print maybe 1,000 of them or 500 of them at least, right? You kind of get that number plus shipping costs and say, okay, here's the bare minimum I need to get it in people's hands. And that means I make $0.00. You know what I mean? And that's usually what you set as your funded goal. At least I try to do it that way. So it's an honest funding, right? Versus, a number that you put in there just to kind of be arbitrary and pretend like there's some work needed. But at least for myself. And then, once you hit the funded number, you can realistically do this without going into debt, at least, to get it to people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a hobby level.
Yeah.
And
but to make it truly like in a profitable sense, you got to go quite a bit beyond your funding goal initially. And so, but that's part of the ride.
And of
right?
course, you want to print more than has actually been ordered too, because you want to have some extras. You want to be able to go to conventions. You want to be able to go in demand for a while until you run out.
Yeah, and you also want to be able to, for myself, that this is a long game, right? I've established a publishing company, and this is a long game. So, I've already got pathways for them to be digitally distributed in the next phase, right? And then also to get through print distribution, through the Barnes and Nobles and the Diamond pathways of it. So that way it has a real life, right? And you're building a property that's gonna continue on versus just through Indiegogo or Kickstarter,
So if you get into the bookstores with the Kill Journal, will it be the same book that was done on Indiegogo as far as the leather bound and looks like it, or will it be a mass market sort of cover?
Paperback? Yeah, that will depend a little bit on the distributor. I went through this with I covered a board game based on my TV show, and we did pretty good with it. We sold about 7,000 copies of the game, and we had two versions. One that was built for mass market and one for the campaign. Because, like, for example, like Target was like, "Hey, listen, we love your game, but we're not carrying a $65 board game. We have a limit, and it's $40, and that's max." And so then you have to. That one doesn't have minis. That one has standees, right? And you do you do things to make it affordable. So, in a perfect world, that's what's out at Barnes and Nobles is the leather-bound hardcover. If not, it'll always be on our Shopify store, which will be up shortly after these things start to deliver next year. It'll be on our Shopify store, but then it will probably end up, like you're saying, a mass market, this kind of paperback situation.
Yeah, a different kind of dress.
Yeah.
For no other reason than so that the Indiegogo people feel like they got something special for backing it.
That's a primary thing is to say, hey, you guys have something unique, and it will be, and it's available on the campaign only, and later down the road through our Shopify, but most likely will not be in because they're going to carry a $40 price point thing for Batman, right?
Exactly.
They're not going to, yeah.
Now this is a mock-up of the leather journal here because I know it's going to be more than just the imprinted gold letters and eye on the back. You're actually going to have some design built into the right?
That's right. There's a whole design into it that actually ties into in fact I can bring it up here for you. So I can give you a better higher res image of it. Is that it's all debossed, and so it was built built in 3D. This book is, so it's like what you do is you photograph a real book, and you also give your 3D artist the specs, and then you give them the texture from the actual leather, and then they wrap it all together to make you so that you have your actual product, right?
Right.
But this one, so inside of it there is a whole series of debossing and embossing and gold marks that there's some symbology in there. This is based on a 12th century Bible design that tie into some of the plot twists and secrets inside of our story, right? So it's a cool thing because it's the book in and of itself is an art piece, and it's also is an art piece, but it also has some mystery to it as well. So it's a little fun to explore. So I'm gonna, if you don't mind me sharing screen 1 second, I can show you. So you can see it there. Do you see that there?
Yeah, I can give it full screen too.
Yeah, if you see it there, you can see a little better there, right? You can see clearly the design layout. It's amazing 3D artist Cindy Sprague. Her and I worked on this. I sent her some references from some old Bibles, and then her and I crafted this, and she did a really great job of laying it all out.
Now, have you seen a physical mock-up of this yet, or is it still just legal?
So here's what it is. So I have the actual texture of that I have in my house here, the leather bound with the hard cover to it. The actual imprinted design will get going underway here this month in December. Because it's quite costly to do like to do a one-off book, like I'm going to fully print one copy of my book just as a test. It costs you $1,000, right? And so you really try to avoid doing that until you're ready to go to print, and then they give you proofs, right? And you get the sampling coming in, but you seldom get there's a small leap of faith, right? Because you can't just in the interest of money, where you hope it looks exactly like this. Yeah, there he goes. Back to, thank you, brother. He backed it there, and so, but you send these specs, your 3D file to your printer, and they double confirm it, and it's the texture, and you get the gold sample in, and then like the marrying of them happens in mass production.
I thought so. You can't wait until April to actually get the first one of these in your hands and say, so that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, you end up getting a copy a little earlier because they airmail it to you versus put it on a boat, but you get, and it will be quite the thing. And of course, I'll take photos and share it, but it's really exciting. And I'd also do that. That's what makes it fun, right? Just to get this exclusive leather-bound edition. It makes it something really special.
Yeah, I know when we got our book, The Devil You Know, the last book we did is an anthology. Unboxing that was a huge deal for me. It's a huge deal for every book. It doesn't matter how many of them you do. Every time the next one comes in, it's like you just can't wait to tear it open and see what they look like in a bunch in a box there stacked up.
I know, right? You feel like you feel like all this talk became something real.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
And you have to let them go for money, but you have to let them go.
Yes, you have to let them go. I know, because you love them so much.
Work so hard on it.
Yeah. So that's a unique aspect of it. And when crafting it, it's interesting because my artist, Jason Krager, who's been working on this, amazing guy, and he's is
that the guy doing Hammer?
That's him. Yep, that's him. So he's cranking these pages out at just an ungodly speed, right? He did the first half of the book, like almost was cranking out a page a day. Which is, for the record, is it's pretty insane, right? To be moving at that kind of a speed. But he has been just killing it. And now after we got sort of that first hump to make sure I had enough pages before I launched, right? Because he ended up replacing an artist who'd gotten ill and had to fall out. And so he came in here in the last minutes and saved the day for me. He and I were on a stream, and I said, hey, at first I asked him to do, hey, I'd love to commission an image from you, to have you do one of these revenants. And he said, sure, great. And then the next call I gave him to give him the details on that revenant, I said, actually, I was wondering if you could just do the book. And so that was quite the change. It was like, hey, I actually need you to do 88 pages.
Can you do 88 pinups for us?
Yeah, I actually need 88 pages, realistically. And so,
now I know he does great sculptures too. So is he the?
No. Actually, this guy he goes by 6x6.
No, him too.
Oh, okay, great. He's rad, and so he's the guy doing it, and he's just absolutely killing it. And so, in fact, I want to show you something that literally just came in from Jason. It's uploading right now. I've got a page that you can just see the quality of pages that Jason delivers on a regular basis. And he's, because he, as you mentioned, he did Hammer. He's like a guy who's built and used to using black and white, right, as his thing. So let me show you this page that just came over. Boom. So this is what a page looks like coming in from Jason before Steve Cannon colors it. Right, it looks like this, and in many ways, it totally delivers as is. Right.
Yeah.
Like it almost delivers without color, and I love that about him. And I think that probably I will do a black and white version of this
I was just
book.
suggesting you do that.
Yes.
Just about to suggest you do that. I don't know if it'd be a hardcover or if you'd want to do that in a black and in a paperback, but you really get to enjoy the line work in it.
Right. See, whereas lots of line work is much more simple, right? It's just outlines intended to be filled by color, right? Whereas he's really delivering a page that stands on its own, which I think it just really demands that we do a black and white version because it's so cool. I think after people get it and have read it, would love to see this version. So, but this is the mighty Jason Krager, and you can see here the club is facing off against the Mr. Happy Face here.
I was going to ask who that was because he was not one of the Revenants I'd seen.
Yeah, this is a new one. His name's Happy Face. So he is something to uncover in the issues.
That is some cool stuff.
Yeah.
I should have known that you had Jason Krager doing this. I guess I didn't. I don't read these things. I just look at the pretty pictures, you know.
Yeah, see, it's funny you say that because that's what I've gone over that a dozen times when making campaigns, and I'm like, listen, you got to. The Cavalry Collective. There's the man. How you doing? It's awesome. Thank you for that. Where it's like, where you build a campaign and there's all this stuff you want to say about it, right? And I think that happens to me too. I end up reading like the first segment or two, and I get looking at the pictures, and it's like, oh, I'll just figure it out when it comes, and then you buy it, right? Or maybe if you're on the fence about it, you might read a bit more. And so then I'm always like, Adam, listen, you don't put too many words on this campaign so people can easily get to the fun stuff.
Yeah, I've seen several campaigns where, and maybe it's just the way that Indiegogo builds the pages too, because you put your art pages up front. You got to go all the way to the bottom and find out what the stretch goals are. I'm like, yeah, I guess it makes kind of sense, but sometimes I feel like I'm really scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling.
No, it's just totally the case. I know I haven't in the game world. I always try and like do a blurb, stretch goals, and then like you get into the mechanics of it. And I think that as many images that people are having fun. I built this page, this Indiegogo campaign like it was a comic itself, right? Like I built a background and lettered it like a comic. To make it at least fun to look at least I hope. I mean, I don't know, RJ, what do you think? And maybe people in the chat, you can tell me too, do you like this much kind of like, hoo-ha with it? Or would you rather just like, give me the easy to read black text sitting on the white with a couple of pages? I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, here's what I would tell you. And I'll just, first I've got to share the screen back up. So this is the video. If you watch the video is telling you what kind of sort of thing is about. As I scroll down here, I've got an image, but it has writing in it. So that's not so bad. I mean, you're telling us in the image what's coming up here. But see, I'm going on image after image after image after image after image after image after image. No text, which is fine for the viewer because they're reading it in here, but not so great for search engine optimization.
I see. Well, see, the thing about it is, actually, RJ, none of that text reads as text because I build them in. They're built as images, right? Because to get them all done like that, they're not. Indiegogo doesn't read those as text. Those letters,
right?
It's reading it as an image because you have to build it in Photoshop, put it in InDesign. I mean, in this case, build it in InDesign and then slap it there so I can't read it.
It's an image. There wasn't any typing saying, hey, I would lead off before all those images with, here's what we are, here's what it's called, here's how many pages, and here's what you get. It's a paragraph. Simply because Google can't read the text in these images either because it's an image. So your search engine from outside of Indiegogo for people to come in and find it doesn't work quite as well. But if you got all the text over in the tiers that trigger all your SEO search wants and needs, then that's fine too.
Got it. Note to future self. Note to future self on that. But if you bounce down through these down to the page. Speaking of all the fun art, we can look at some of the pages here.
Absolutely. I was going to say it is on my budgeted list here. You can see Kill Journal, $50. I keep
Yay!
everything that I plan on getting here, and mine includes shipping. By the way, I put the shipping cost on there. I pretended to buy each one of them and said, okay, this is what I'm going to need when it comes time to actually make the order.
Yes. And I tried to with shipping. We have shippers in the UK and US and around, so that way it gets localized, so it's cheaper. So they don't all come to the my books don't come to the US. They come parts of the US and then a port in the UK and in Australia, so that way people can get them at a more local price. Unfortunately, shipping costs have gone crazy up due to COVID in general. Yeah. But so I put them at like just what I have to do to get it in your hands, because I hate to charge people a lot of money for shipping, right? It just feels awful. So I just want to say, here's exactly what Quartermaster Logistics or Games Quest charges to get it from China to your doorstep. Boom.
Now, are you going to print? Are you printing in one location, or are you going to print distributedly to?
No. You print. The secret is you print in China.
Okay.
Right. The benefit of that is you can do. Their print capabilities are they're way beyond what you can get done in the US for the price point. The factories there have just so much more sophistication and speed, because that's where people print things. And so they have just so much. It's shocking when you see like how much more sophisticated a Chinese factory versus getting it done in Texas is. It's, if you want to just do this, you can get it done in the States, but once you start to get fancy, gets hard to get it done in the States. But anyways, then what will happen is then it ships out from China directly to those other companies, right? So it'll go from the printer and then split out. So that way you can get the bulk discount on your printing, and then it splits to different companies who then claim it as their own property. So that way it comes into the country not as a foreign good, it comes into that country as whatever that shipper's product is. So it skips all the importation taxes and all that kind of stuff.
Excellent. You thought about the mechanics on this for a while.
Yeah, I thought about the mechanics, and I wanted to deliver it to people at the best price I could get it, and so that we can, because money is tight for everyone and it's valuable for everyone.
I know a lot of
okay. Back to the big blocks of text that I skipped that. Yeah, okay, good. Yeah, I know that I don't mind when you get sunk. Right, Pap? You get sunk with a big block of text like that. You read a couple sentences and then you're out. Yeah.
Get to the art as quickly as possible. That's. I'll definitely agree with that.
Yeah. So this is a cool print that we had done. People who backed in the first 30 days got this print by Preston Acevedo, and it was colored by Mike Spicer. It was a really beautiful print, but that is the original of it. It's an 11x17 that we're selling there, so that Preston can make some money out of doing that fine piece of art, and then you can get the original. So that's a fun tier. And if no one gets it, I'm sure I will get it, because I would like that piece myself.
Preston's making the rounds. He's being a sought after pinup or additional cover artist. So he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. I agree with that. And then these are our stretch goals that we talked about here. These are we've unlocked 2 of them, and we are close as heck to unlocking the next one. Let's talk about that 1 second. So at 20K, we unlock the next story, and the next story is written by Cody Fernandez of Jack Irons fame, and also colored by this amazing colorist named Mariam Yasser from Egypt. And then Jason Krager, this is the story he started on before he moved to the full book. But this is the story of Sydney, who is our principal point of view character. This is the night she was attacked. And so we're dangerously close to unlocking that. We're just a couple $100 away, and boom. And then we unlock that story, and your book goes from 88 pages. And then now it's currently already at 100 with these 2 unlocked, and it'll be at 106. And then if we get to the last one, it'll be at 112. So it'll be a proper sized graphic novel at that point. So, Absolutely. And, all of that affects the printing cost and the spine size. Believe me,
All that stuff.
I know what it's like to suddenly have an extra story thrown in there. Like, I have to redesign the entire cover now because the spine thickness changed.
No, I know the spine thickness changes, all that stuff. But I figure, one thing I think that a constant concern I see about crowdfunding is people are concerned about the cost, right?
Yes.
And I'll back all the time. I'll back a 48-page or a 24-page issue that for $25 and $10 in shipping. So for the record, this is Murder Falcon by Daniel Warren Johnson. It's awesome. It's collecting 8 single issues. It's like a 150-page book, and it cost me $20, right?
Wow.
And so it's a great deal. Right, here's Headlopper. This is even thicker. Andrew McLean. It cost me $20 as well. They're image books. They're amazing. I love the stories, and these are writer artists that I just think are the best. But that's $20 to get you that. And so when you think about that, it's like, man, to charge somebody $25 for 48 pages and then $10 in shipping, that's pretty costly. And the average person can't keep that habit up too long, right? Like they start to get selective really fast, which I think is what's happening in the market, right? You start to get real selective because it's like, man, if I get 2 or 3 of these, all of a sudden I'm $130 into, I'm over $100, and I only have 3 48-page things I wait 1 year for. So, not that that's a wrong choice, because sometimes that's what you can do, right? But I thought, long term on this, I want to be able to provide people with something that's like, what, you get, because essentially that same hardcover is $40 in store, right? At that page length. And I'm like, I want to be able to try and match that. And the same thing with the 8th. The 8th is a hardcover edition with a slipcase, but it's 212 pages, right? It's my previous one that's like, so you get what you're going to be getting, that's over $50 in store, right? And especially with the slipcase, right? And so I'm like, I want to be able to give you what you can get in store, so that way people can keep coming back. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, people do get selective, and the ones that they'll keep returning to. I think they're going to be the crowdfunders who put on a circus, to put it in simple terms, to make it really an experience. When you're funding this, you're participating in. You're not just buying a ticket; you're swinging from the trapeze in the middle of the show at some point.
Totally, and I want to be able to do that. And I think we're providing that, right? You're going to get 112 page, and everybody who backed in the first 30 days gets a cool print, and you get a special book. And these are some of the cool characters. That these are our survivors who each had their own harrowing experience. This is Brecken, who's comes from the world of voodoo and living life as a Creole in the swamps of Louisiana, and he has some dark past that affects the story more than he wishes it would. But I know, and I've thought about trading cards, other things along the way. Though I've never really been into trading cards, right? Until I saw this one from Lost Pages, where they gave you nine trading cards in a sleeve, and you're like, wow, I have like a thing that I want to hang on to. And I think that's
let's take a look
special.
at
it. Okay, let me show you.
Now we get a better shot.
Yeah, okay, so you can kind of see it here. This one's in that middle, even by Dan Fraga, but you can see these are some really cool images, right?
Absolutely.
It's just really cool characters, and then on the back you can see he went full steam with it, right? There's their character dossier, their name. There's this whole crazy fonting and titling. He built this custom titling for each one of these, which is a heck of a lot of work for the record.
Yeah.
You can spend as much time on this titling as you can on pages of work. But it's really rad. So, yeah, they made it an experience. Phil is awesome. Lost Pages, if you haven't seen that one, it's rad. Anyways, it's really a cool thing, and I love that, right? That's what makes the experience worth it. And maybe throwing in your $25 and your $10 in shipping isn't so bad if you're going to walk away with that, right?
Sure.
With this whole special package.
I know you said you're not huge into trading cards, but with your gaming experience, have you considered, a Kill Journal collectible card game?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because I have another tabletop game on Kickstarter right now that's doing really well called Asunder. I kind of keep my two worlds separate: my comics on Indiegogo and my games on Asunder. On a Kickstarter. But that is definitely the plan, right? Is that the graphic novels? What's a really cool way to experience them is that in a board game capacity. Collectible card games are tricky, though I've certainly thought of the idea, and I know I talked out with Scott McCullough from Door Kickers about like, what if you had like a collectible card game a la Magic the Gathering, right? And people could buy in, like the Lost Pages or Dragon Rage would then do a set of 12 or 15 cards that fit inside the game mechanics, but are tailored for that world, and people could.
That's exactly what I threw to Dragon Rage. Was that we need to make a generic collectible card game, and then people could make cards from their comics that fit into the game, and you could surprise your opponents, like hey, we're fighting revenants. Well, I've got this and this. Yeah, well, Cyberfrog. What? Where did that come from?
See, that would be really a fun thing to do. I know there's been talk of it, and maybe I should just do it, and so that we can get it out there, because it would be cool if there was somewhat of an agnostic, Magic the Gathering style game that you could then drop in. Here's the 9 cards from your comic, if you will.
Here is my booster pack.
Yeah, here's your booster pack. That would be epic. I don't know why it hasn't been done, but maybe, RJ, we should do it.
I'm ready to go. I've got nothing to do with it. All I've done is throw the idea out there and say, hey, somebody make the game. Everybody else can just, it's open source gaming kind of thing. I don't even know if you would license the people to use it, or just say you're allowed to make your cards.
I think there should be some sort of pathway where the card mechanics, you have to, certain rulings of the card mechanics, they've got to send them over, they've got to run them through, and there's some whatever fear or something so that it stays conducive. So it's not like, great, the Cyberfrog card kills your opponent in one blow. That's not very fun. But it's anyways, I agree that should be done and underway, right?
The other thing I've always wanted to see done with the trading cards, since so many people like to do them, is get the campaigns to help each other out. And by that, what I mean is, instead of releasing 9 trading cards of your own thing, and if you're going to do 9, by the way, make it so that all 9 make a picture in your sheet when you put them in there, like the old X-Men Fleer used to do. You'd get the 9 in there, and it would be like the 9 characters on a unified background, like it was puzzle pieces. I would like to see 9 cards on a unified background of different characters from different projects. So it's like, hey, I've got, here's my Kill Journal card, and, I've got my Kill Reaver card over here, just to throw another crowdfund that was out there. Well, guess what? When you look at it, it's like, these look like they're on the same background. Oh, there are 7 other campaigns out there with cards that fit this background, and I will have the whole set if I go back all these other 7 campaigns at the trading card tier level. So now you got, you are selling Kill Journal, and you're promoting 8 other campaigns, and 8 other campaigns are promoting Kill Journal.
Right.
All interconnected.
Well, I think that Marcel Dupree, who's a really cool guy, who's been, I'm sure you've seen his campaigns, LaFay, Babylon. He asked me to say, hey, Adam, would you put in your issue 1 for me into my, as a stretch goal? So one of the stretch goals can be, you get a digital pack, and the PDF pack includes, 5 different comic books of different artists, right? Of different campaigns, right? So that way you get like a taste of all these other campaigns out of it, and it's also another way for those people to kind of cross promote. I agree.
I've seen that done. In fact, I've backed a campaign on Kickstarter for Punchline, Ted Sikora's Hero Tomorrow book. And because every time they hit a stretch goal, I was like getting emails like, "What? I've already backed it. What's this other update?" Oh, well, we've reached this stretch goal, so here's the first issue of this person's comic book in PDF format. Enjoy it and read it. And I've gotten like 4 PDF comic books that I was not even expecting to get because they keep hitting these stretch goals.
Yeah, and it's cool, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's what I totally agree with. And it's really, I think it's a wonderful thing that hasn't been explored enough, for sure.
Well, everybody's been out for themselves, right? for so long here, but it's going to get. I think we're going to start getting more and more, hopefully more of a community. I know some people hate that word. It's a business, but it's a rising tide raises all boats, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's something to be said about that. I totally do. Well, I appreciate you letting me gab away about the Kill Journal, and thank you everybody on the chat. Professor Murph, War Party. Hey. That book looks really great. I remember I was an early backer on that. I saw that come out, and I was like, man, this is such a cool story with these all of these essentially lycanthrope type characters, right? Like the were tiger, the were bear, and in a colonial setting. Anyways, very cool, and I'm glad you're out rocking it and are funded.
Yeah, we've had Professor Murph on the show.
Yeah, it's great. Totally awesome. It was a really cool story he threw together there. But yeah, here's the cool pages. Unfortunately, there's one of the worst letterers in the business working on it. But it's
I don't feel that bad.
Well, that's oh good. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I've seen some that are literally typewriter. That's just like,
oh no,
how did you pick that?
No. This is all properly done and built in proper programs and et cetera, et cetera. And it was funny. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I did all my lettering in Photoshop," and I'm like, "Oh man, you built all your text in a bitmap versus a vector. Oh, you're gonna like the printing on that is gonna be rough, to hold together." But
well,
anyways,
it looks okay. So
yeah, no, this is all done in vector. It's all done in Illustrator, and it's all the real thing. But
and this is going to be bloody. So this is an MA comic book here. If we're
sure, this is a spotter movie with a conscience, but it is a spotter movie for sure.
All right. Well, Adam, I'm glad you were able to come back on the show again and talk to us some more.
Likewise.
Pleasure talking about the Kill Journal. It's still on my list. Are you going to go into demand after the 5 days are up here?
Yes, we are going to go into in demand, but we got to crack these stretch goals in the next 5 days. So if you're thinking that now's the time and you're prioritizing the list, I would hope you would go with Kill Journal over Moya.
But I hit that $20,000 mark.
That's it. And maybe we can go. There's a second video there. RJ, if you want to, maybe we'll kind of end on that note. It's a little bit more storytelling, and it uses the interior art versus the pinup art.
All right. Well, let's give it a look here.
There's a war going on, and I've seen the enemy. Revenants is what they call them. Vengeful souls back from the dead and hungry for blood. I can't fight the war alone. I need soldiers. Those who face the evil that lurks in the shadows. Those who've lost someone. Those with nothing left to lose. I can take their broken lives and reshape them. I can make them into something violent and holy. I can give them revenge. But I cannot give them peace. Only God can do that. And he stopped listening to me long ago. There's a moment that comes when they know whether they're a victim or a survivor. There's a war going on. Which one will you be?
Let me unmute myself. That final scene there, you really got a good look at the texture on that novel. That is a beautiful, beautiful piece of art that looks like a book.
Thank you. That's all hell, Jason. But thank you very much. I really appreciate you taking the time here to put me on, and thanks everybody for listening and taking the time. And the Kill Journal lives on.
All right. If you're watching the replay, the description, the very first line below this video is a link to the Indiegogo. Pointing over here like everyone can see my other monitor. Go out there and back the Kill Journal. You got 5 days to hit this $20,000 stretch goal to get that third story in there. And then you didn't have a set limit for that fourth story. I saw question marks on it. So make that 25,000. We'll see if we can push it to that. Make it
All
21.
right. Is that what you're saying?
Make it easy to get to. All right. Adam, thanks for coming on. Everyone in the chat, great to be in here. Hit all the links in the description below, and you'll just be helping out the channel and helping out Crowdfunded Comics. We'll see you all tomorrow. We don't know who we're going to have yet. It'll be a surprise.